Hi, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Inshallah, today my friends and I will present on the marine pollution, legal requirements on oil spill incidents. So my team consists of me, Muaz Bin Md Akhir, my friend Muhammad Aziim Yusoff, and last but not least, Hakim bin Amirudin. Okay, so there are some conventions that are related to this and highlight when this marine pollution comes from oil spill. For the first one, you have the MAPOL. So the MAPOL, in this convention, it highlights on the design of the oil tanker itself. For example, on the design on the tank, the minimum requirement of the width or the thickness of the tank. The second one, we have the OPRC, the Oil Pollution Preparedness Response and Cooperation, which highlight on the response and who will take the responsibilities for the oil spill. For example, we have the Tier 1 for the region, Tier 2 on the national, and Tier 3 for the international level. And last but not least, we have the ILPC funds, which highlight on the compensation when the oil spill occurred. Okay, so as mentioned before that OPRC have three tier, which is the first one on the local one, where the oil spill only occur at the local of the sea. Second one, we have tier 2, which is national level, with, for example, the oil spill occur in Perak and Kedah, Perak and Pulau Pinang. And last but not least, on the tier 3, where the oil spill occurred between two nations, for example, between Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, so apart from the international frameworks, we also have on the national legal framework and regulation. So for the first one, we have the National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, which Malaysia has developed the contingency plan, which provides a framework for responding to oil spills in its territorial water and coastal areas. So this plan outlines the roles and responsibilities of various stakeholders, including the government agencies, industry operators, and response organizations in addressing the oil spills and minimizing the environmental effects. So the second one, we have on the Environmental Impact Assessment, EIA. So for the EIA, Malaysia has established the guidelines for conducting EIA for development projects that may impact the marine environment, including the offshore oil and gas activities. So this guideline require assessment of potential risks and impacts, including on the risk of the oil spills, and propose measures to prevent and mitigate those risks. And last but not least, we have our own legislation and regulation on maritime operation. For example, we have on the uh, Environmental Quality Act 1974, which provides a comprehensive framework for the protection and management of the environment in Malaysia. So this includes the provision for the prevention, control, and mitigation of pollution, including marine pollution. So, apart from that, we have need to differentiate between other country with Malaysia also. Okay, so since different countries have different national frameworks, so this is the differences between the country. For the first one, in Malaysia, we have the Environmental Quality Act that impose stringent standard for the oil spills. For the parties that involved in the oil spills, it will take the responsibilities for the cleanup costs and for the damage, which is all the same like the United States, which is on the Oil Pollution Act. Malaysia and United States difference on the same, but for the Norway, it have different requirement and standard, for which the ship owner and the charterer will be responsible when the oil spill occur. But for the Norway, it does not have any liability cap, which the liability may go to an maximum level. It doesn't have maximum. That's all from me. I will pass my presentation to Muhammad Nur Aziim.
Assalamualaikum. For liability on compensation, it bears two basic principles. Is the polluter pays principle and the concept of strict liability. For the polluter pays principle is basically the ones who pollute will pay, and for the concept of strict liability means that the entity can be held responsible for damage without a need to prove negligence or intent to harm. For under the International Convention on Civil Liability for Oil Pollution Damage at Sea, the ship owner has strict liability for any damage caused by an oil spill. This applies regardless of whether the owner has at fault, which only limited defense available, such as an act of war or willful act of a third party. So for the existing liability regimes and compensation mechanism, the Oil Pollution Act of 1990, OPA in the United States, makes oil company responsible for the cleanup of oil spill and limit their liability for the damage caused by the spill to 40 million. The OPA also created the National Oil Spill Liability Trust Funds, which is available to provide up to $1 billion per spill incidents. The International Oil Pollution Compensation Funds has been instrumental in providing compensation for oil spills globally. Next is the compliance and enforcement of regulation associated with marine pollution is challenging due to several factors, which is the jurisdictional issues posed by international waters, the technical difficulty of proving liability, and the transboundary nature of marine pollution. For instance, to identifying the source of an oil pollution in international water can be complicated. That could lead to disputes over responsibility. There also the issue of flags of convenience, which ships registered in the countries with flags regulation can evade more stringent standards. However, various measures and mechanisms has been employed by countries and international regulation, such as for the MARPOL Annex 6, is by limits the nitrogen oxide emission and the use of fuel with lower sulfur content to protect the people's health and environment by reducing ozone-producing pollution. Next is the measures and mechanism employed by countries and international organizations, such as regular inspection of ship, monitoring of ship routes, and satellite surveillance to detect oil spill. Bodies like IMO establish global standards for all countries to be followed. So, for violation can result in penalties such as fine, imprisonment, and ship detention. However, the effectiveness of this mechanism is different between countries because some nations may lack the resource of political and enforce regulation rigorously, and fines may not be sufficient to determine violation, especially for large corporations. In the United States, the Oil Spill Liability Trust Funds can use to cover the cost of removal or damage when the responsible party is unknown or refuse to pay. Additionally, penalties are imposed on business that let hazardous materials flow into the local water table.
Alright, the question given here is role of international cooperation and regional agreement in addressing oil spill and managing marine pollution incident. For the answer given here, we divided into two, which is the International Convention on Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response and Cooperation, which is OPRC, and Marine Oil Pollution Preparedness and Response, which is MOSPA. For the OPRC, this convention was adopted in 1990 and provide a framework to international cooperation in the event of oil spill. It requires states to establish measures for dealing with the oil pollution incident and to cooperate with each other in responding to such incident. For the most part, this agreement was signed by the Arctic Council in 2013 and aims to enhance cooperation among Arctic states in preventing and responding to oil spill in the region. And now we move for the next question, which is the effectiveness of cooperation effort among countries, regional organization, and industry stakeholders in preventing and responding to oil spill. For the first point, information sharing and cooperation. Effective collaboration requires the sharing of information and resources among countries, regional organizations, and industry stakeholders. This includes sharing best practice lessons learned from the previous incident. For the next point, joint exercise and training program. Collaborative effort often involve joint exercise and training programs to enhance the capacity and capabilities of the involved parties. For the third point, regional cooperation and partnership. Regional organizations such as the Euro Maritime Safety Agency EMSA, and the Regional Maritime Pollution Emergency Response Center for the Mediterranean Sea RAMPAC facilitate collaboration among neighborhood countries. And for the last point, industry involvement and best practice. Collaboration with industry stakeholders, including oil companies, shipping companies, and service providers, is crucial in preventing oil spill. Industry participants bring expertise, technology, innovation, and financial resources to the table. Okay, now the emerging legal issue related to oil spill and marine pollution. Here you have three issues. For the first issue is application of new technology. For example, unmanned aerial vehicle (UAV) equipped with sensor and camera can be used for real-time monitoring, spill detection, and surveillance. However, the application of this technology raises legal questions such as privacy concerns, data ownership, and the admissibility of collected evidence in the legal proceeding. For the next issue is emerging pollutant. Oil spill can result in release of various hazardous substances beyond conventional crude oil, such as heavy metal, chemical, and persistent organic pollutant. This emerging pollutant can have a long-term ecological and health implication. And for the last point, gap in existing legal framework. Some potential gaps include jurisdictional issues in case transboundary spill, inadequate liability regimes, and inconsistent in the implementation of regulation at national and international level. Closing this gap requires international collaboration and the development of supplementary protocols to address this issue effectively. On the last question, improvement in legal requirement and mechanism to enhance the prevention, response, and mitigation of oil spill. For the first point, advancement in oil spill response technology. Oil response technology research and development in oil spill response technologies may lead to significant improvement in cleanup methods. Innovations such as nanotechnology-based solvent, biomediation techniques, and robotic systems may become more prevalent, enabling more effective and efficient cleanup operations. Next, enhanced safety measures. Oil companies and transportation entities may be required to adopt state-of-the-art safety technologies and practices. This can include the use of improved blowout preventer, real-time monitoring system, and enhanced emergency response plan to detect and address spill promptly. For the last point, public awareness and education. Government and organizations can provide public awareness, campaign, and education initiative to foster a sense of responsibility and stewarding towards the environment. Educating individuals about the risk of the oil spill and their consequences can promote behavior change and encourage support of stringent regulation. That's all from us. Thank you.